All righty. Michigan and Michigan State will play for the 118th time on Saturday night. I think this might be, since I've been doing this for a living, the least hyped of these matchups ever. Some Spartan fans want to get embarrassed on Saturday night, so Jonathan Smith gets fired. Are you a bad fan if you want to get embarrassed by your main rival?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not going to say I don't understand it, but it goes down to how much do you trust Jay Batt? Do you trust that you've lost 4 Big Ten games to this point, you've only played 4. If you beat Michigan and then you lose to Minnesota, Penn State, Iowa, and Maryland, one win like this should not save his job. So it's not going to do any worse or any better. I would just rather not get blown out by my rival. I don't want that as part of the conversation.
You're absolutely not a bad fan if you're rooting for a blowout this week because you're rooting for the best interest of your school. As a Spartan fan, you're rooting for what's best for Michigan State in the long term, which is a swift firing of Jonathan Smith. They haven't been convinced he needs to go yet, so they need more ammunition.
Or maybe they're just waiting to the end of the year because you're not going to hire a new guy next week.
But I've seen this phenomenon in this city with our pro teams. If you want to see a coach fired, if you can't make the playoffs, you are still rooting for your team by rooting against your team. You're just looking at the big picture.
That makes absolutely no sense.
You got to think, John.
None.
Use your brains. Come on.
None. It's always about the win.
Calm down in there, okay? Michigan State fans have been beaten down the last few years. I want to extend an olive branch as a Walmart Wolverine. This season is the 10th anniversary of Trouble with the Snap. Is that the most iconic play in the history of the rivalry?
100% yes. The suddenness, the shock. It's Harbaugh's first year. It's D'Antonio on the other side. Yes.
Yeah. And there's a distant second, and it depends which fan base. Michigan's never going to say, yeah, that's the most iconic play, but it is. The other one would be Charles Woodson's interception. But that goes to the point of, well, if I'm going to look at it from a Michigan perspective, it's Charles. If I'm going to look at it from a Michigan State perspective, it's trouble with the snap. If I'm indifferent to either team, it's clearly trouble with the snap.
I asked your counterpart on your broadcast, Michigan, Doug Karsh. He said it's Spartan Bob.
Bob. You could say that, but no. The trouble with the snap is much more. That's anytime this topic comes up, and I asked that question last night, and they all said trouble with the snap.
Yeah, and I actually don't think it gets enough credit in college football history for the jarring and suddenness of the play. Like, I know the kick six still gets some play and stuff like that. It was incredible what happened. It's a 1 in a million play that happened against Michigan. All right, we're pretty much at the halfway point of the college season. This is an annual question that I love to ask. What team ranked outside the top 15 is most likely to crash the college football playoff?
Well, there's a couple easy answers, but I'm going to go with one that I actually said at the beginning of the season. That's Arizona State. They just had a big win over Texas Tech, and the issue is going to be the top 2 teams in the conference, in the Big 12, Cincy and BYU. Arizona State doesn't play either. They have one loss, and it was a bad loss, but they're still in the mix. Cincinnati and BYU do play each other, so one of them is going to have a loss. What the hell is the tiebreaker? No one knows.
This is why I hate this new system.
Well, this is good. He picked a Big 12 team that could emerge. I'll go with an ACC school, Louisville. Only one loss. They have no ranked opponents left. Could run the table. They've got a veteran quarterback, some good skill talent, and it's Braum.
Recency bias.
And they have a good loss, actually, with Virginia and OT that they shouldn't have lost, right?
Yeah.
By the way, in this little exercise, we excluded the group of 5 team or whatever, South Florida.
Would be the easy one. Yeah.
Because we know they're automatically going to make it. All right, the Lions have reached their bye week at 5-2, keeping Super Bowl aspirations alive. Will the Lions reach the Super Bowl? And if so, who will they play?
Best team in the NFC, the Lions will be in the Super Bowl, and they'll get their rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs.
I knew you were going to say that.
You can say the same thing. Sometimes you guys can agree, unlike that first one.
I'm not going to agree because I think they do still have a couple flaws. I don't know that the receivers are always going to stay healthy. That is key. They still can't find a way to protect Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to go with the hot hand, and maybe it's just a hot hand right now. The Colts are playing really good defense.
Ooh. Lions-Colts?
Lions-Colts.
Battle of Michigan and Indiana? Border war?
Sure, if you want to call it that, yeah.
Big-time rivalry game.
And maybe it's just a hope that the Colts get there because it's a great story, and I think it's Daniel Jones. It was Saquon Barkley sticking it to New York last year, and now it's Daniel Jones sticking it to New York again this year.
So Saquon and Daniel Jones win back-to-back or make back-to-back Super Bowls in Mike Valenti's world. Really?
Hilarious. Hilarious.
And then you pile on that loss last week that the Giants had.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Malik Neighbors holds out next year, gets traded, and then he goes on to win a Super Bowl.
All right, the last time the Lions lost 2 straight games was late October of 2022. What is the single biggest reason why the Lions are so resilient after a loss?
Well, I'm going to say it's the will of Dan Campbell, and we could use culture. We could use all of those different things, but everybody always asks, okay, what does that mean? And I'll tell you this, it's emotional stamina. It's not being too high, and it's not being too low. Not getting too high after a big win and not getting too low after a loss. It's having confidence in what you are doing, the process of preparing every single week and being able to put a loss or a win behind you and going out there and playing your best next week.
Yeah, Dan Campbell often says it's the players. He's being too humble. A lot of teams have great players.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell, and I'll give you a specific. They lose to the Chiefs, and what did he say immediately after the game? Everybody wanted to focus on that officiating blunder. He said it had no bearing on the result. Now, it had some bearing, but he didn't want to give it any oxygen to his team. We are moving on. It's Dan Campbell who sets that tone.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I agree with you guys. All those things are good. I just, for these players, I'll go with St. Brown as kind of one of the leaders and the guys that carries the team and all that. In 2025, for these players to take the will that they have to be strong, not buy into media narratives, to not bicker back and forth, to not complain about getting the ball, don't care. That's very hard to accomplish in 2025 with the modern athlete. All right, the NFL trade deadline is 12 days away. I want you to predict, both of you, which will be the biggest trade at the trade deadline.
I have a question for you. Who's the bigger name, Breece Hall or Chris Olave?
Breece Hall.
Okay, Breece Hall
barely.
Breece Hall to the Chiefs.
Okay. I could see that. And I could see any offensive lineman being traded to the Chargers. They've been decimated with injuries up front. But I'm going to actually include Detroit in this one.
Oh.
Rick Woolen, corner for the Seattle Seahawks.
Ooh, Holmes loved him in the draft.
And here's the thing. He's a 6'4", speedy corner that is dying to play more man coverage. And he doesn't really fit Mike's defense in Seattle. So if they can get everybody, if Weatherspoons can stay healthy.
What's the price?
Well, so it's his 4th year, and he's not been extended. So I think you're probably looking at, I don't know, a 5th-round pick.
Hendrickson doesn't get moved, guys?
I don't think he does.
Wow.
And if you want the bonus
maybe that's the big story.
Well, you brought up Mike McDonald. That's the last question here. And look, for 2 straight weeks, I brought up Jackson Smith and Jigba last week. I'm not some Seahawk homer or something like that here. I just want to clarify that. But Mike McDonald has the Seahawks at 5-2. He's 15-9 overall as a head coach, putting his win percentage at 62.5%. Is McDonald the most underrated coach in the NFL?
Well, I think he is. And I think part of it is, all right, JSN. Like, he is not talked about enough, even after last week and the poster that he put on that official by dunking it on the goalpost. But you don't talk about him because it's Seattle. We don't look, we don't see, we don't hear, we don't feel anything that goes on in Seattle. And it's Sam Darnold. Like, nobody cares about what he is doing because he's out of division, out of sight, out of mind. Mike, same thing. The only other guy I would talk about, and I think it's because people have forgotten how good of a coach he can be, that's Sean Payton in Denver.
He's got so.
He's got cred, obviously, because he's won a Super Bowl. But having the issues that he had, being fired in New Orleans, sitting out a year, I think people have really forgotten how good he is. He's got this Denver team and Bo Nix at 5-2.
I'll go Todd Bowles. I don't feel like we give enough love to defensive head coaches in this league. They've cycled through offensive coordinators. He's kept them at the top of that division. They've won a playoff game. Nobody thinks of Todd Bowles as a good coach. I think he's a damn good coach.
Oh, I'm kind of. I mean, I disagree. I think a lot of people do, but
he gets
to your
forgotten.
Point, he gets forgotten because he is a defensive head coach. Same thing with Mike.
Yeah, he always has the kind of the weird faces on the sideline. People like to make fun of him, but I agree with you. Second time around, getting a chance, that he's done a phenomenal job. post a Super Bowl team, with Brady and cleaning that whole thing up.
Yep. That could have gone south. That's your Thursday touchdown. It's 97-1.